What is up, you guys? Cody, I'm gonna see if your little mute deal will come off now. Yeah, good. I didn't have to click anything.
I already did.
We got the Zoom meeting going, so hopefully everything will pull.
As soon as I heard you talking, I unmuted her, so.
Hopefully all the stuff will come up like it's supposed to, you guys. I don't know if it will or not.
What?
We'll find out. But we're recording. We're live, back together again. At least on the video.
Probably not. Not our luck.
Hopefully the video won't cut out. You can kind of already hear a little bit that Cody's somewhat delayed. Internet, man, it's just out here in the boonies. Internet's not great. Holy cow. A lot of feedback and sounds. We're trying to get everything figured out. This is a hard way to do it, but it's kind of the way that you got to do it now. Cody, good weekend of it this weekend. How'd you feel about it?
Yeah, I was happy with the outcome. I'll say that much.
Yeah. For you guys visually that are watching, I've already put up your new AP Top 25 there. I've put up your games from this weekend. What we're going to go through is we're going to go through a little bit of news. We'll review the games from this weekend outside of the league and then back inside of the league. We'll go back over all the picks and everything that happened over the weekend from me. Cody didn't have any, but from me and from Mad Dog's picks. Then we got our Crimson Dogs of the week. We'll update the AP, even though you've got it here on the side. We'll go through it near the end of the show, and we'll do our Under the Lights segment again as well, reviewing your Friday Night Football game. So, Cody, you got any news coming out of the league that you want to share with us?
Not that I really know of. Okay. I'll just pull up top 25. Not that I really know of. There's just not really been a whole lot of changes that I know or I can that I've heard of or anything else.
Yeah.
There's been some big news in the NFL, but I know we don't really talk on the NFL a lot.
Yeah.
But as far as college goes, I really haven't heard anything major coming out of college from coronavirus or anything like that. So,
yeah.
I'm guessing whatever they're doing is working. So,
must be.
Curious for the SEC and NCAA for their rules and regulations.
Yeah.
Besides that, I really don't think. There ain't been no real big player injuries. I know there was that talk last week about Derek Stanley Jr. at LSU. They never officially came out and said exactly what it was, which I know there's some violation, HIPAA violations in there that they can't really discuss some of that. But I'm glad that he got released. I think did he play with LSU? That he may play depending on what his family said. Coach O said he's going to let, if his mom and dad said that he's okay to play and he said he's okay, then he's going to let him play.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the thing that I had seen that I put up when I did that episode, what was it, I guess Thursday evening, Friday's episode, unfortunately without you, that was the one that I think the same thing I'd read where his dad had said something about it, but that was all that we got from it, which, that was fine there in and of itself. But like you say, I think that's kind of most of the news that we had out of it. You with me still?
Yeah, I know that. Did you ever get information on that player? Yeah.
No, I didn't. Yeah, I got you. Sorry, it's just your video is.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you. Your video is
okay.
is pretty sparse. Really, you're not much in the video outside of occasionally I see you kind of moving around. But it seems like it's pretty delayed. But we'll try to roll on with it as long as we can at least.
Yeah, Yeah, I know there's been talk. Did you ever find any information about that player from North Carolina?
No, I didn't.
Said he went down with a hip injury.
Yeah, I never did follow up on that to find out on that either. I do. What was in NC State? I do know NC State played. Who did NC State play this past week? And they beat them. It was a good game, wasn't it? Let me look. I may have it here.
Uh,
Thought it was a top 25 matchup. It was. They beat Pitt by 1. Yeah. So, well, that's a good way to start this. Go ahead and jumping outside of the league. Was that NC State Pitt game where NC State did pull up the upset on number 24 Pitt 30-29. NC State was 1-1 going into it. Pitt was undefeated at 3-0, and now NC State will be 2-1, and Pitt falls to 3-1. They'll be out of the top 25 obviously after that.
Lawrence Smith. Who's that player? Okay. Okay. It said that Martin was examined at the hospital for a possible spinal cord injury, but tests came back negative. He was back with the team Monday and attended some meetings. His status for the remainder of the season is unclear. So he did not play, but he is back with the team.
Well, that's some good news there, at least.
I think they went into. Yeah. So I think they went to concussion protocol.
Yeah. Yeah, thinking back to it, it was really strange. I know when we talked about it that the guy he gets hit and is not unconscious, but he's laying there not moving for a long time, and for him not to consider that like a concussed play or something like that. I was very surprised by when they said that it was a hip injury instead of the other. But I mean, nonetheless, outside of prayers to him and hope that he can get better and get back on the field.
Oh, yeah. But my thing is, for them to say it's a hip injury, I think we all kind of knew that's not a hip injury. It's hip injury. You saw it was a hip injury.
Yeah.
Whereas when he went down, he was laying there. He wasn't moving.
Yeah.
So I think we all kind of knew that's not a hip injury. I think they just kind of want to throw something out there. Glad to see that he's, the test came out negative for the spinal cord injury, that he's back with the team.
Yeah.
Maybe he can finish out the season with the Wolfpacks. If not, man, it's up to him. But he's only a redshirt. Was he a redshirt freshman? So he's still got plenty of playing time left.
Yeah, it's a shortened season anyway. No sense in trying to hurt yourself more from it.
So hopefully he can come back next year. So.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
Honestly, if I was him, I'd tell the coach, hey, coach, I appreciate the team that don't rush it. But besides that, I think one of the little big news left are the upsets. That there were several upsets this past weekend.
Yeah, had one in the SEC, but let's start outside of the league. Go ahead and run through some of the games outside of the league. That'll bring us into some of that upset talk there.
Let me just refer to my ESPN app.
There you
go. It's not week 6. Week 5. Top 25, your upsets of the week was it 3 Big 12 teams? 1, 2, nope, ACC.
It was two Big 12 upsets at least.
2.
And then you had the one in
2 Big 12, 2 Big 12, 2 ACCs. No, 1 ACC, 1 SEC, and then 1 Sun Belt.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you got your 2 Big 12s. That's it.
So, yeah. So we'll start off with the Friday night game that include Louisiana Tech and number 22 BYU. With BYU pretty much handled business in that game. They took that one, finishing off 45-14. Continue on down. SEC to your first Big 12 that I come across, anyways, is the upset there at Texas?
Yeah.
Yes, at Texas. I think it's at Texas. where TCU won 33-31 over number 9 Texas. So another big upset there. TCU, they've been hit miss past few years. What was it? 5 years ago? I think right for the playoffs. They were up there for a BCS championship 5-6 years ago.
They definitely played in position to
So,
be in position to be in one. I don't know if they ever got to where they could play for one. Seemed like they always fell apart
they
there
never
at the
got
end.
to it, but they were on the outside looking in.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they get the upset there at Texas, 33-31.
Yeah, and Texas could have and almost lost last weekend, so they could have had 2 losses instead of just this one.
There was another Big 12 team that ended up getting 2 losses in a row, or 2 upsets in a row. We're going to jump on down to them and put them on the bucket. The Oklahoma Sooners, old Boomer Sooner, they fell real quick. They fell last week to K-State in a 38-35 loss. This week, they fall to
Iowa State.
There
you go.
In a 37-30 game. So Oklahoma's chances for playoffs are slowly slipping away.
They gone. Not unless everybody else in the Big 12 loses. I still don't think they can be in. I still don't think they'll be in, even if they did win out.
Nah. Well, now it gives you 3 Big 12 teams battling for that number 1 position there in Kansas State, Iowa State, and OK State.
Yep.
So, needless to say, there may be a state team winning the championship at the end of that season.
Yeah.
Continuing down, Clemson got a victory over Virginia, 23-41. That Clemson and Miami game here in a couple weeks is looking more interesting now.
It's coming up this weekend.
Clemson just seems like they can just. Is this weekend?
Yeah.
So this weekend we'll find out just how real is Clemson, or just how real is that Miami team down there in the Hurricanes.
Yeah, double checking it coming up Saturday. Number 7 Miami and number 1 Clemson.
Oh, that's it. There's another upset that we overlooked.
Excuse me.
Tulsa getting overset over. Oh, I got to do the former quotation marks there. National champ USC USF. That's their self-proclaimed national champs.
Not this year. Not this year.
Just the beat down by Tulsa. Memphis number 25 there, following to SMU. When UCF was number 11, by the way. But Memphis getting the loss to SMU. SMU getting a win 30-27. So all it takes is a field goal.
Yeah.
Trust me, I know.
I'll be honest with you. Before this game, I was kind of surprised that SMU was not actually reverse that, put SMU at 25 and take Memphis out. Obviously now they are, and they're actually the only team in the top 25 that has a 4-0 record.
I mean, Memphis is 4-0 in the season, while Memphis is 1-1. Or SMU is 4-0 in the season.
I got you. Yeah,
so,
yeah, they look good.
I'll get sooner or later, guys. But continuing on through this real quick. Oklahoma State gets the win over Kansas 47-7.
Pour them out. Poor Les Miles.
Cincinnati gets the win over USF. Yeah, poor Les Miles. Not really. He left the SEC for a reason. The beat down by Cincinnati 28-7. Cincinnati continued on their little streak. North Carolina handling business over Boston College 26-22. And I think that is the rest of the games for the top 25. Let me check over to the.
They look like them.
Another blowout game there. Huh?
Sorry, I said that looks like that was it.
Let me put it sharp here so it's not too obvious. Yeah. I'll just run through some of the other games real quick from last week. Wake Forest taking on Campbell, taking the victory there, 66-14. Let me go through here. Georgia State getting the win over East Carolina, 49-29. Coastal Carolina getting a win over Arkansas State, 52-23. West Virginia handling Baylor, 27-21. UAB continuing on with their win of 21 to 13 over UTSA. Liberty getting a win over North Alabama, 28-7. Army getting a win over Avo Christian. I probably screwed that up. I'm tired. 55-23. And did my team play? Let's see. K-State getting a win over Texas Tech, 31-21. Where's my old Raging Cajuns at?
I knew that was it.
They have a bye week? Yeah, they had a bye week last week. I had to look for them, man. Look,
Hey, they're back in the top 25. Holy moly.
I'm pulling for just because. I mean, I can't even. Yeah, it's tripping, man. It's tripping. But there's teams and scores from the outside of the SEC from last week.
Yep.
Not really anything big or news I can think of coming out of there.
No, I think you mentioned it. Outside of those, the big upsets in Texas, which should have lost last week, and the back-to-back losses for Oklahoma. For the first time, I think, since 1999 that's happened for Oklahoma. So, and I didn't mind seeing it. I hate to say that when I saw that it happened, I laughed, especially when Texas lost, just because, really. When I saw Texas lose, when I saw them losing last week, I was giggling, and when I watched them lose this week, I giggled. And if Georgia loses this week, they can all, or this year, it doesn't matter, they can all do the same thing back to me. But for this week alone, at least, they can't, and that's going to jump us right into talking about the SEC. Georgia gets the big win, the top 10 matchup, Georgia and Auburn. Georgia takes the win 27-6. I've got some fun information for you here that I'm going to run through. You see the G on the hat, so I'm going to try to keep the bias out of it as much as I can.
Oh, Lord.
But I got some stats for you here, some pretty interesting ones that I was going through. And these are the past few quarterbacks, basically since 2014, okay, in this Auburn game. In 2014, you had Hudson Mason. He went 10 for 19, 123 yards. 2015, you had Grayson Lambert, went 12 for 17, 97 yards. 2016, you had Jacob Eason, who had the second best game as far as yardage goes against Auburn. He goes 20 for 31, 208 yards. Out of all three of those, no touchdowns from him. So, moving into the Jake Fromm era from 17 to 19. In 2017, he goes 13 for 28, 184 yards, one touchdown. Georgia did lose in the regular season of that one. 2018, also Jake Fromm, 13 for 20, 193 yards, two touchdowns. And then his best year last year, 13 for 18, 110 yards, three touchdowns. Not as much yards, but touchdowns. This year, Stetson Bennett, 17 for 28, 240 yards, one touchdown.
Sorry.
No, you're good. And let's see, I saw another thing on Stetson that I wanted to read while I was looking at it. Oh, yeah.
I was shocked he started it, kind of. I thought JT Dean would have got the start there.
I heard that he was getting the start in that. So I'm glad for him. I mean, you look, and this is exactly what this is going to read for you. And this is where you can draw the line back to. It was the end of the first half against Arkansas when Bennett came in and Georgia was down 7-2. And this is a tweet from Drew Butler, the old kicker there at Georgia. But since then, since that happened and Stetson came in, Georgia has outscored its opponent 62-9 over 6+ quarters. So a pretty good stat line for you right there, as far as for Stetson Bennett goes.
Man, you're only. I don't know who the game was prior to that, but
Arkansas.
Your only two games have been Arkansas and Auburn.
Yeah. Yeah, and here's another thing. This is just for stats out of the Auburn game. With 6 points, Auburn now averages 7.3 points per game over the last 6 games against Georgia. Also, since 2012, Auburn has won twice, and that was in 2013 and 17, where in 17 they played twice, and let's see, Georgia obviously got smoked in the regular season and then smoked them right back in the SEC championship. Let's see, first half stats for you. Auburn has 27 rush yards. Georgia has 130. Auburn has 54 passing yards. Georgia has 158. Total yards in the first half for Auburn was 81, whereas for Georgia it was 288. 5 first downs for Auburn, 15 for Georgia. And for third downs, which was a key point and is always a key point in the game to me, 1 for 6 for Auburn, whereas 6 to 9 for Georgia. So kind of a big deal there, at least against them in some of the stats that I had. But I'm gonna pull stats for Georgia at least.
Yeah. Well, since you're gonna do that,
you gonna pull it for Alabama?
Let's jump down to the next game of the year.
All right.
Of the season. Yep. Alabama taking on Texas A&M, where Nick Saban is going against another one of his former assistants, and once again the assistants fall.
20-0, right?
It's now a perfect 20-0.
I'll tell you what, he's gonna keep that streak until what is it?
He's gonna be There's a lot of pressure on Kirby being the first one.
He's gonna keep the streak until December 19th. I don't know that Georgia can beat him in week 4, but he's gonna break the streak in the SEC championship game. I believe at least. But go ahead with it.
Touching on Matt Jones' stats, Matt Jones was 20 for 27, 435 yards with 4 touchdowns and 1 interception. The run game for Alabama finally picked up a little bit, still didn't hit the ground running like we were all hoping. Team total carries 29 carries for 109 yards. So, Brian Robinson and Najee Harris were trying to get it running, but it just wasn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
Receiving wise, though, there's actually somebody on top of a new face on top of the receiving board for Alabama, and it's not Waddle and Nate Smith. Michie, the true freshman, coming in with 5 receptions, 181 yards, and 2 touchdowns. That dude is dangerous on the outside. Seeing that defense, the offense play this past week against A&M, that looks like the original traditional Alabama type team you're used to seeing, where we're going to try to run it, we're going over the top. And with the speed that we have on the outside, I think it's going to be hard for them. It's going to be hard for most of your secondaries to keep up with them. I heard something the other day that said that his first 10 meters is actually quicker than Usain Bolt.
Oh, wow.
So the world's fastest man is slower than Alabama receiver in the first 10 meters.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. So I know watching the game, he did definitely look good, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah. And, it's bad when Matt Jones is throwing deep balls and still overthrowing them a little bit by, just a hair.
Yeah.
He overthrew, I think it was Mitchell once or twice.
Which is pretty surprising. Not an easy thing to do.
Yeah. As far as defense goes, we had 2 interceptions, 1 return for a touchdown. So he had a pretty impressive game. I'm glad to see our defense, getting back to its scoring technique with, getting touchdowns on the other side of the ball. Alabama takes that game 52-24. A&M, Kellen Mond, who, we both had pretty high heights for beginning the season. 318 yards, only 3 touchdowns with 1 interception. Where on the ground they had 30 carries for 115 yards. And so they still try to get something going, but I think that fourth quarter defense kind of stepped up and down, and it was just too much for them to handle. In the first 2 quarters of that game, when it won to, or knows, I don't remember. I'm tired. Um, no, it was 14 right before, and then Alabama scored again. So it was a good game. I'm glad to see our defense and offense step up a lot that they did.
Yeah.
So we'll have to definitely, hopefully, they can keep that track. Florida had a big game against South Carolina, where there was really, I think there's almost no defense in that game for the most part. I know I didn't get to watch it, but you were telling me that for a while there, they were just running up and back and forth the field like they were playing two-hand touch for the most part.
Yeah. I tell you what, let's try something here. I'm gonna see if I can just move this just to audio and see if our audio quality will be a little bit better, because I'm getting a whole lot of lag off of what we got going here. So let's just see. What is it? There we go.
Kill my video if that helps.
There we go. I'm gonna at least see. All right, guys, we're back. Had a little bit of technical difficulties. The audio is getting a little bit off here, so we're trying to get it caught back up. But what we were doing was we were jumping into the Florida game, South Carolina and Florida. Continue with what you had there, talking about the defense, or the lack thereof, at least.
Yeah, I think I was actually away. I didn't get to watch much of that game. But I remember you telling me that it seemed like for a while that there was really no defense for that game. Let's see.
Yeah, Florida's for the first half. For the first half, looked pretty good, but then kind of in the second half, they just kind of let South Carolina hang around. One thing that I was reading earlier, another tweet that I saw, and it was don't let the different, and this is going back to Georgia, obviously, that Florida's offense only put up 348 yards this week, while Georgia's put up 442 total. And all it was just saying, hey, my goodness, sorry guys, I got a little bit of head cold going on, so the voice and everything's not sticking with me very well this week.
It's just terrific all around, guys.
Yeah.
Just stick with us.
Yeah.
We appreciate it.
That's all. That's kind of all you can say. But anyways, yeah. Florida still looks good. You know, I don't think they look bad. It's like I had said last. I think I was talking to you or texting you during it. Was this is the spot that Florida had to be careful of, because Georgia was in the same spot. We were ranked in the 3 spot, playing at home against South Carolina. Played lackluster, and South Carolina came up and beat us. And for a little while, it looked like South Carolina was hanging around. That second half, Florida really kind of put the pedal to the metal. And South Carolina at the end of the game did make it a little bit better with one more score. So instead of being 38-17, they made it 38-24, and that's how the final ended up.
24. Yeah, I mean, just from looking at the stats in this game, Florida just it looked like they almost were struggling with South Carolina a little bit, which to me, South Carolina's like that kryptonite in the SEC West or the East. You know, they just kind of they're a little thorn in the side of everybody.
Yeah.
They were Georgia's thorn last year. You know, taking them to overtime and winning on I don't know what the heck you call that game, but
we don't
just the yeah. But just to see the changes and the challenges that the teams are going to have to face this year, with not having practices and all this going on, especially with, you know, coronavirus, adjusting the training and the workout schedules. You can see the toll it takes on the teams.
Yeah.
But I think Dan Mullen down there, not Dan Mullen. Yeah. Dan Mullen down there in Florida, they're going to fix up what they got. You know, they got a real good quarterback there in Kyle Trask and an excellent receiver there in Kyle Pitts.
Yeah.
So
Kyle to Kyle is the duo down there this year.
Man, I'm telling you, they've been dangerous last game, and this past game I think they hit each other pretty well too.
Yeah, I'm excited. You know, one thing going back to you were talking about the A&M. You got Florida and A&M. They're matching up this weekend. Florida travels to A&M. A&M's not looked anything like I expected them to look this year. I expected them to look a lot better and be second in the SEC West come the end of the season, and it may very well happen, but they've got a lot of stuff to wake up because they do not look all that great starting this year off. But they match up this weekend, and I'd be really surprised if A&M and Jimbo can't get that defense wrapped around that tight end and put somebody to match up against him, because I want to see what Florida can do if you take that matchup out. Yeah. He's still got some guys, and Kyle Trask is good enough. He's going to find some guys on the outside to get the ball to. But the question is, can they find a guy that's good enough to get some grabs there? And they got a couple other guys, I believe, but Kyle Pitts is the biggest thing. One thing I will say is it didn't look like Alabama could get the ground game going against A&M, so that may be one thing A&M has going for them in that Florida game, is locking up the ground game, lock up that tight end and Kyle Pitts, and make Florida beat you in another way, because it seems like Kyle to Kyle, that matchup right now is the one that you got to block out to try to get the win. And I know that's going to be a big part for Georgia come week 7, at least in the SEC week counting.
Oh, yeah. I mean, after this last game, their leading receiver for Florida was actually Kadarius Toney. He had 6 receptions for 86 yards, while Kyle Pitts only had 4 receptions for 57 yards. Yeah. So he's still dangerous, but he is spreading the ball out really, really well between the receivers.
Yeah.
Not getting, the closest guy behind that had 2 receptions, but still he's getting that out there.
Yeah. I will say one thing about Kadarius Toney. He's also a good receiver too. Good receiver, can catch the ball and get through space. But if you look at his yards after touch, that is the key difference. If you can pull that up, because watching that game, there was a pass, and this all boils down to the no defense of South Carolina, where there was a pass to Kadarius Toney where he catches it. And I'm not kidding you, there are 5 South Carolina defenders around him, 2 in front, 2 on the sides, 1 right behind him, and nobody wrapped him up. It's all just arm tackles trying to get it, and it don't work against a receiver who can bounce off of those. That's exactly what he did. He slipped right through the hole and got a whole nother 30 yards off the run. So if you take that off of it, you're not getting nearly as many yards as far as that, and he kind of matches up more with Kyle Pitts there. But so that's just another stat to kind of keep an eye on. But like you say, we'll see how it goes. Defensively, things have got to improve for both teams to make a difference.
Yeah, I mean, there's still changes both teams got to go through and adjust. Continuing down, I think the biggest shock of our, past weekend for the SEC was the team that fell last week to Georgia is Arkansas, taking down the team that took down LSU last week, Mississippi State, in a 21-14 game, just a straight out football game in that one.
It's 2020, man.
But there's something going on over there in Arkansas. I don't know what they got going on, but
listen, I don't think Arkansas is going to be a world beater. I don't think they're going to be a world beater. I don't think that they're going to shock the world and beat Alabama and go to the SEC championship. But I will say this, and a lot of people discredit Georgia's offense, which rightfully so. We looked terrible in the first half against Arkansas. Much better in the first half against Georgia, being 24-3, I think it was at the half. But Arkansas doesn't have a terrible defense. The first score that Arkansas has is a pick 6 off of the guy who was our Crimson Dog of the Week last week and threw for 1,000,000 yards in the opener against a defending national champion in the LSU. But Arkansas's defense really stepped up in this one and made the difference. All right, start all that over because I didn't hear anything you said.
Yeah, I think last week, in the first game, I don't know how I started that. Man, I was unstable.
It's one bad thing about doing this virtually.
We're over it. If it works, if not. Yeah, where's better when we do it in person? It's easier.
A lot easier.
But like we mentioned, Arkansas, I think they have any practice, any spring training, anything that adjust off of, and your first game of the season against Georgia.
Oh, I lost him. Well, we're gonna try to roll on with this thing. Hopefully, I can find a way to get Cody back on this thing. But man, that stinks. But I mean, I kind of got to roll on with it. What he was saying there was, looking back at the start of that game, Arkansas's defense did look good, even though Georgia's offense didn't necessarily look good. Arkansas's defense showed up in this game to hold a team that scored a heap load of points against LSU. Oh, he may be coming back in. To hold them to only 14 in this game is a lot better. Hey, I got you back, buddy. I can't believe it just jumped right back in like that. That's good. But it's not much better than it was.
I lost it. Like, it's just, we try this tomorrow night because this ain't working tonight. I don't know where I was. What was said?
We were talking about the Arkansas-Mississippi State game.
Arkansas-Mississippi State. Let's say Arkansas playing against Georgia, a really tough offense. I'm talking about it now, but
yeah, guys, I think. Yikes. Well. Let me try this here. I'm trying to get this thing set up to where maybe I'll pause the video again here. Take 5. Alright guys, we're back in the video. Unfortunately, Cody's not with us in the video. We're just going to roll with it. Ain't that right, Cody? Cody?
Yes, technical difficulties.
I thought I lost him again.
What?
This has been a tough one, guys. This
sucks.
This has been a tough one. Y'all stick with us. This is probably going to mark up there as bad as the pilot episode, but we're gonna roll with it anyways. Cody, we're still talking about Arkansas, Mississippi State. It was the biggest upset, obviously, in the SEC.
Are we sure?
About. We really don't know, but let's finish up with it. Arkansas does get the win, 21-14. I don't know. I don't know if Arkansas is not good or if Arkansas is good. If Mississippi State's not good or Mississippi State is good, I don't know. I really can't tell you. Can you tell me? Because I can't, and I don't know if we'll know it all until you might not know if a team's really actually that good outside of Alabama and Clemson and a couple of others until the end of the season, if at all, in 2020.
All right, now I say we just take a dartboard and throw darts at it, and we'll make our guesses from there. Because that's about all you really can do.
Well, let's move on to the Ole Miss Kentucky game.
Who would have thought that number 16? Okay, that works. Where's it at? Hold on, let me get my scores. That's it. Where the heck is the?
Oh boy! You know what I meant to do that I should have done earlier for us?
Okay. Oh my goodness!
It was this.
What now?
Oh, now this audio is not loud. It's the upset sound that you don't get to hear, so it was pointless. The upset siren. Sorry, go ahead. This show's terrible. It's awful. That's all there is to it. Roll on with it.
This is our worst show since the pilot. We done put up 20 episodes, man.
We talked about restarting and just started over. We're 38 minutes into it, and the 38 minutes that have been in it are not good, but the back 38 minutes are going to be good. We believe in that at least.
Yeah, it's like the Georgia game against Arkansas last week. First half was crappy. Second half's been way better.
Yeah. you couldn't have said it any better than you just did.
I probably could. It just depends on the mics and all that working.
True.
Anyways, all right. I'll point. Ole Miss and Kentucky. Ole Miss gets the upset there, or I don't know if you want to call it an upset or what you want to call that game. Going to overtime, Kentucky gets the win, 42-41.
Opposite. Ole Miss gets the win.
It's one of the teams got the win, man. Somebody came up with a win by 1 point. Ole Miss continues to win and gets their first win on the season. And Kentucky falls 0-2 after their fall last week to Auburn. Lane Kiffin there at Ole Miss, just pulling probably some stunts out of his sleeves, really. They played at Kentucky, so Ole Miss going up to Kentucky and getting the win there in overtime. I think there's still some questions there at Ole Miss that need to be answered. But at the same time, I think it's going to be a couple of years before we see those answers at the same time.
That's true. All right, I'm going to roll on with it, and we're going to give you Missouri, Tennessee. Tennessee coming in ranked 21st in this one. Big win over Mizzou, 35-12. Tennessee looks pretty good this week. We're really going to see how they match up against Georgia coming up this upcoming weekend. The phone that had all the games coming up on it is not in front of me, so I don't have those stats for you, but I do know they play Tennessee in Georgia at 3:30 on CBS coming up. And the last game of the weekend was LSU Vandy.
Yeah, Vandy. Oh, Dandy Vandy. They're the punching bag of the SEC.
Poor Vandy.
After last week's loss, LSU takes from Mississippi, or from, who did they play last week? Mississippi by LSU 41-7. At least they scored.
Yeah.
Let me give that to Vandy. At least they scored.
Yeah. I will say back to that Arkansas game. You know, Arkansas is usually the punching bag, but they get their first SEC win. In 20 games? They hadn't won an SEC game in over 1,000 days, so they at least get off of the bottom of that. And that 1,000 days, I think, matches up to just in season. I don't think that counts outside of playing in season. Of course, then again, yeah, that's been 2 years, so that actually is right.
Season.
Never mind, that is right, because 20 SEC games, that's been 3 years. Is that right? Doesn't sound right, but anyway, who cares? Yeah. Anyway, moving on, LSU Vandy, 41-7.
You would say. All right.
Oh, I thought I lost him again.
Yeah, so LSU Vandy, LSU Vandy 41-7. LSU starting to fire on all cylinders. They're figuring some stuff out there. But I don't think they're going to be the LSU that we were all thinking they were going to be this year. I think they're going to be back like they were a few years ago when they were just kind of hanging around there and the outside, just kind of looking through the looking glass.
Yeah.
But besides that, I think we pretty much covered for the most part, covered the SEC games fairly well.
Yeah.
For the parts that we was able to get through our audio.
Whatever that was. Well, I'll tell you what, let's go ahead and review back through our picks. I'm going to pull up our bet lines from week 2 that you had there. Cody didn't have any bets that he put in this past week because he was out, unfortunately. Did you have any before the game? I told everybody that we would at least trust you on what we thought that you thought beforehand. Do you have any games that you picked before the game started last week that you wanted to maybe throw out there for us?
Well, the Bama A&M game, I thought it was going to be, honestly, I thought it was a little bit closer than what it was, just based on what we saw previously from A&M.
Yeah.
But, again, it's 2020 and Bama's kicking all cylinders. Auburn-Georgia game, I was a little bit shocked in Auburn. I thought they were going to make it a little bit closer in that first half than they actually did. But Georgia's defense finally decided to show up and play after they played Arkansas. They continue that role. They need to continue that streak and continue to make sure that they're firing all cylinders, in the coming weeks. So, besides that, really and truly, I think pretty much all the games, besides the Mississippi State, Arkansas, I never would have called that. I would have picked Arkansas, or I would have picked Mississippi State over that, especially after the way KJ Costello put up his numbers last week against the LSU defense. I really thought he would have done better against Arkansas, but when it rains, it pours in 2020.
For sure, because I was definitely thinking KJ was probably about to put up the same exact numbers against Arkansas that he did against LSU. And I'm going to pull up here for you, Cody. Obviously, you can't see it, but these were the picks that I had last week were the exact ones that you said there. It was the Georgia-Auburn game. and the A&M Bama game. I picked Georgia by 6.5. I picked Georgia to win by more than 6.5. The final, obviously, 27-6. They beat them by 3 touchdowns, so I get the win there. And I do lose because I thought that A&M would keep that 17.5 point a little closer than they do. They lose by 4 touchdowns, so I lose that one. That puts me on 3-1 over the year. Cody, I think you're 2-0 from last week's picks. No picks this week, like I say, unless you tell me that you have some, I can update that coming into it. The other one that we have was Mad Dog's picks of the week, and he actually did not have a good weekend. I'm going to pull that one up for you. He picks Auburn to beat Georgia 36-28. Loses that because he took the over 44.5. Obviously 27-6. That one doesn't go over 44.5, so he loses that one. And then the Vandy, he picked a pretty close score, 48-14, and the final was 41-7, so pretty close. He was a touchdown off for each team. That put him at the over 50.5. Unfortunately, it ends at 48 for him on this, so he doesn't get the over 50.5. All he needed was a field goal, and he'd have had it. Moves Mad Dog to 1-2 on the season as his overall record going into it. Unfortunately for him, but hey, what can you do? That's at least the picks that we've got for you to update there. Like I say, Cody, you can bring them to me when you do. But let's go ahead and get into our Crimson Dog of the week. Cody, I know you told me who you had earlier. Go ahead and hit me with who you're thinking this week.
Yeah, my Crimson Dog of the week, I'm going to go outside the conference just because of the upset that they was able to give and establish there against let me find my game real quick. I'm going to go with the SMU quarterback, Shane Buechele. He went 32 for 45 with 447 yards and 3 touchdowns against Memphis, leading the Mustangs to a victory there over Memphis. And we'll cover the top 25 in a minute, but I think with that win, it should have put them in the top 25. I mean, 4-0 on the season. Really ain't played nobody that had a win against Texas State. Blow a win against North Texas and SF Austin. And SMU's sitting there and looks like they're putting on a pretty good show there. And where's SMU from?
Texas.
They're from Texas. Okay. So yeah, they really put on a Clint over there, and that's one of my Crimson Dog of the week is going to be the quarterback from SMU.
Yeah, that sounds good. I know, like we talked about earlier, they will find themselves in the top 25, being the only one in the top 25 that has a 4-0 record. And he did look good, definitely. Mine is going to be in the league, and I'm not picking a specific player. I did think about Stetson Bennett just because he's had a really great show in the past couple of games that he's played. And he put up some pretty decent stats, but I didn't want to be too much of a homer and not to be. This is who I've got. Cody, a little surprise for you. I'm going with the Arkansas Razorbacks as they take down 16-ranked Mississippi State. And again, like we talked about in the past, it is their first win in the SEC in 20 games. So I've got to go with the guys. They look so good, and I'm proud of them. I'm proud for Arkansas to finally get a win. I expected them to get one win this year, and I expected them to get it against the Mississippi team, but not Mississippi State. I expected to come against Ole Miss. So hey, who knows? They may win a couple this year. So go Razorbacks as far as that goes down there in Fayetteville.
Yeah, hats off there to the Razorbacks. Going with that loss last week against Georgia and making that comeback and beating number 16 team in the country, Mississippi State. You got to give it to them, the changes that they're doing there. Looks like they finally got them a head coach that understands and knows what he's doing. No offense to the past coach, but there's some changes there in Arkansas.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'll tell you what, let's go ahead and jump into our top 25, and we'll run through it. After you do that, I'll go through our SEC East and West rankings because there is a little bit of a change-up and one on the West side that I think will surprise you. But if you got the top 25 pulled up right there in front of you, why don't you run ahead through it for us? Because you won't be able to see the East and West that I'll pop up on the screen and be able to read for us.
Yeah, I'm going to jump through the top 25 real quick. We'll start at number 25 and work our way up, kind of. see the changes that I'm making around.
All right.
Here's here. Number 25 is number 25 Minnesota. Last week they're unranked. Once again, they're not playing until, let's see, they're in that Pac-12 conference, so they won't play until November. Iowa State getting the win or getting a bump up there to 24th with their win, with their surprising win over Texas or over Oklahoma. Louisiana falling down to 23rd, or going up to 23rd. I believe that's Louisiana Tech.
No, that's your Raging Cajuns there.
Going to 3-0. Raging Cajuns. Well, they bumped them up back to 23. Look at there. Last week they were unranked, so they moved back up to the top 25. Continuing down, Texas falls from 9th to 22nd. With their loss, they've been handed, going to 2-1 on the season. Texas A&M is one of your lowest ranked top 25 SEC teams, falling down to 21st from 13th last week after they lost there to Alabama. Number 20 is hitting Michigan, bumping up from 23rd from last week. They are in that Pac-12 or the Big 12 conference. Big 10 conference. They're not playing until October. So they're just kind of hanging around. Virginia Tech getting a boost up there from not being ranked last week, jumped up to 19th, improving 2-0 on the season. There's the SMU Mustangs after their win over Memphis, jumping up to 18th, going 4-0 on the season. LSU going up to 17th with their win over Vandy. Last week they were ranked 20th. Wisconsin, again in that Pac-12. I think they're Pac-12. No, they're Big Ten. Conference ranked 16th. BYU jumping up to 15th. Tennessee following them, jumping up to 14th. Auburn falling down from their loss to Georgia all the way down to 13th. Oregon sitting at 12th, jumping up a few spots. Cincinnati jumping up to 11th from 15th. Oklahoma State jumping up to the top 10 position from number 17th from last week. Penn State's pretty much idle. They went up one spot to 9th. North Carolina jumping up to number 8's hole, following 12th last week. Miami of Florida jumping up to 7, bumping up a little spot there after the loss from Auburn. Bumping out. Ohio State's at number 6, as they did last week. Your top 5 are pretty much staying where they are. There's a little bit of swap around. Number 5, Notre Dame, sitting chilling with a bye week this past week. Florida falling down to number 4, and Georgia jumping up to number 3. Them two just pretty much swapping orders, and your top 2 is Alabama and Clemson, sitting 2-1 hole. Not much has changed.
No, and I think the only reason that you saw Florida fall one spot below Georgia is just because Florida's win over South Carolina was a good win. Wasn't necessarily the biggest deficit in that. Don't think that is the key point. The key point was that Georgia was ranked 4th, Auburn ranked 7th. So it's a top 10 matchup, and for Georgia to dominate the game like they did against Auburn is going to give them that edge over Florida. And again, it's one spot. They're interchangeable, really. Either way, if the season ended today, you both in, whether you're in the 3 or the 4 spot. All that matters is who you're playing. So, I mean, and Auburn fell to what? They still think they're 13th, so they still think they're better than an undefeated Tennessee team coming in at 14th. So, I mean, that's just kind of the way that laid there. But it's funny, looking from basically your top 10, there's a couple of changes, but when you get outside of the top 10, there was, I think, really, if I look back, I don't have the thing right in front of me, but there was not a single, there was nothing that stayed the same, and it may have been from that 3 position. Notre Dame stayed the same in 5. It may have been from 6 all the way down. Nothing was the same as it was last week. Everything in the top 25 from 6 down, if I remember correctly, changed. Excuse me.
Yeah, there's some big changes there in the top 25 from just the losses there in the top 25 from the teams that got booted out or they got lost, dealt with them in Oklahoma and Texas.
Yeah, looking here, let's see. So that'll pretty much round out our top 25 there. I'll go ahead and bring up let's start with the SEC East that I'll put on the screen here for us here. SEC East rankings, this is what they look like. Even though Florida is in that 4 hole and Georgia jumps them to the 3, when I looked at the SEC rankings here this past weekend, it does actually stay the same, where Florida is in that first spot at 2-0, Georgia follows them 2-0. In the second spot, Tennessee 2-0 in that third spot. Everybody else is 0-2, with that being Kentucky, Mizzou, South Carolina, and Vandy. So your top 3 are still undefeated. Everybody else, the bottom 4, don't have a win yet. Not necessarily too crazy to think, just because, I mean, this is, again, an all SEC conference game, schedule, season. Everything's strange about it. But let's jump over here to the West. Cody, unfortunately, you can't see it. But again, I'm going to put it up here on the screen for you guys. Alabama coming in, obviously, at first, 2-0, the only undefeated team in the West. Everybody else in the West is 1-1. But the most surprising thing to me is that Arkansas is in the number 2 spot in the SEC West for the first time in I don't know how long. But they come in at 2nd, Mississippi State 3rd, Auburn 4th, LSU 5th, Ole Miss 6th, and A&M rounds it out in that 7th spot. Or I guess you could basically say they're all tied for 2nd. But Arkansas is the one that they put at the top of that, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, Arkansas got something going over there, and was it Little Rock they play at?
No, Fayetteville.
Fayetteville. I don't know what the hell I'm saying. Little Rock.
That's okay.
But yeah, with them doing that, with the coaching changes they made there during the off season, they made some really big changes there at Arkansas. So I'm glad to see the Razorbacks on the uphill climb this year. Didn't expect them to be climbing up so quick, but it is 2020.
They may not stay there long. That's the other thing to think of. And I'm going to ask you the question that I actually saw that came up earlier that was pretty interesting to me. And it's interesting because of this. Because your top 3 teams in the SEC East are 2-0. Everybody else, the bottom 4, are 0-2. You look at the West, and there's only one team that's 2-0, being Alabama. Everybody else is 1-1. The question came up, as of right now, is the SEC East or the SEC West the better conference? I mean, they're the same conference, but which one is the better division? And the reason I asked this question, it's going to be easy to say, oh, well, it's easily the West because you have Alabama up there, and everybody else has at least gotten a win. Rightfully so. I can definitely see that argument, and everybody's going to always make the argument that it's got to be the West because you have the juggernaut in Alabama that does all the winning for the SEC, so they say. But if you look at the West, you got 3 undefeated teams, 2-0 there, whereas in the East, 3 undefeateds, whereas in the West you only have the 1. So they're saying that the East powerhouse between Georgia, Florida, and Tennessee, kind of on the lower end, makes up for all the losses that are coming through. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I think just based off the way the past 2 weeks have gone, you really can't say right now, in my opinion, which conference is better. Because both have had their struggles. I mean, LSU struggled with Mississippi State. Auburn went to Georgia and struggled. You still got some cross conference matchups coming up, and that will definitely, I think by week 5 or 6, you can definitely start seeing which conference is going to be your dominant conference.
Yeah, division at least. Well, like we said, you do still have 7 teams that are from the SEC that are still in the top 25. So I've got a couple other numbers that I was looking at on ESPN earlier. And this is the points for the teams that have been playing. Alabama does lead it in the SEC at 90 points, and Florida's right behind them at 89. So both offenses really rolling there. Georgia finds themselves with 64, so not putting up a heap load of points. But the biggest number I'm seeing the difference in is that defensive side of the ball. Even though it's been Arkansas in the first game, you did have Auburn, obviously, this past weekend, which you would have thought would put up more points than Arkansas, but didn't. But in that points against, Georgia's only allowed 16 points. And again, you can say, well, they hadn't really played anybody. But if you go through, the next closest team that I'm looking at here is Tennessee, giving up 39. Whereas Florida at the top, they've given up 59. Kentucky's given up 71. Alabama's given up 43. Let's see. Ole Miss, poor Ole Miss, they've given up 92. So nobody's really close as far as the defensive ranks go for Georgia. That was just kind of a fun number that I thought I'd pull up for you there. You still with me, brother?
Yeah.
There we go.
There's Georgia's defense this year is definitely rocking all cylinders. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you. It was just behind a little bit. No big deal.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, Georgia's defense, struggled in the first half against Arkansas. Came out second quarter and decided they're going to play football finally. But, definitely some changes there in Georgia's defense, It's good to see some things really don't change much.
Hey, check your audio and just make sure everything. There we go. Okay, sorry, didn't mean to cut you off there. It's just every other second it was kind of cutting off and cutting back in.
So.
Well, Cody, if you can hear me, no, you're good. I tell you what I'm gonna do here, since all that's left is the high school roundup. We'll go ahead and I'll run through the high school stuff for us, so we can try to save some of this fantastic audio that you guys have been able to get so far, to try to keep some of this audio a little bit better for you guys, because it's starting to cut in and out pretty bad. So if you don't mind, Cody, I'll run through our high school deal there, so that way you can get on with what you got. And but either way, appreciate you getting with us and trying to get with us at least this afternoon or this evening. Are you with me? Can you hear me? I don't know if we got him or not.
Yeah. Once again, we technical difficulties, man. That's just part of our life, apparently.
At the end of the day, I think it all just boils down to internet. I live in kind of a rural area, so it's pretty sparse as far as internet goes. Yeah, but we've probably gotten so far down to probably a 12-second delay, so it's pretty bad.
Can you hear me?
All right, guys. So sorry about that. We lost Cody, kind of on the audio side of things. But I guess that's just kind of the way it goes. It's been an interesting night. What we were trying to say was that, we pretty much wrapped everything up with exception to the high school stuff. So I can run through it really quickly by myself. Unfortunately, not having Cody with us on that. And all this boils down to all this technical difficulty that we've been talking about. It's internet. That's all there is to it. He lives in town where they get pretty decent internet. And I live way out in the middle of nowhere in the sticks of Georgia. That's actually him calling. So, Cody, when you watch this back or listen to it back, I'll call you right back. Because if I pull him in on the watch, it's just the audio is just not going to be all that great. So, but either way, again, I'm just going to run through really quickly, hopefully. I'm just going to run through the scores that are going to be rolling across the bottom of the screen for you here. I'll go ahead and pull them up. All of your high school matchups. I will start in Alabama. Northside Methodist moves up to 3-3 on the year after beating Cottondale 49-42. Cottondale falls to 0-2. That's out of Florida. A couple of the other Florida scores here that I pulled up. Port St. Joe gets a big win over Graceville, 55-30. Holmes County gets the win, 27-24 over Liberty County. And then let's go ahead and jump into some of your Alabama scores here. Northside Methodist gets the win, like we said, over Cottondale. I'll just jump back to this. Banks Academy falls to 0-6 on the season to ACA, which will now be 5-1 on the season. 33-6 was your final there. Headland still can't get a win on the column yet, just 0-6, losing 42-0 against 4-3 Andalusia. Ashford falls again after beating Houston County and getting their only win last weekend. In overtime, they fall to Alabama Christian Academy. That one was 49-14. So Ashford Falls 1-6. Alabama Christian moves on to 5-1. Houston County Cottonwood game. That game was canceled. Houston County 1-5. Cottonwood 0-5. I was looking forward to that game. That was canceled. And school, I actually heard, was being canceled for Cottonwood. I think part of this week, if not the entire week, maybe even a week further. I know this week because they've had staff and stuff that have started to contract the virus. So prayers to anybody involved with that one. You got Strawn taking on Geneva, a really good game there. One of the games of the week in Alabama that I was looking forward to outside of the Prattville Enterprise game, and it was down to the wire. Geneva does get the win, 26-21. Both teams will be 4-3 on the season after that one. Dale County squeaks it out against Bullock County, 14-12. They move on to 5-2 in the season. Bullock falls to 2-4. The game of the weekend that I was looking forward to, and it was. It didn't disappoint anybody. Prattville gets the win, 35-28 over Enterprise. Prattville moving to 5-2 on the season. Enterprise 4-2. Geneva County traveling to Elba. Big game there again. Geneva County will get their first loss of the season. Elba moves to 5-2. Geneva County 5-1 after Elba beats them 50-22. Moving on, Wicksburg, big win over Daleville to move to 5-1 on the season. 52-6 was the final. Daleville 0-7 on the season. Colquitt County, powerhouse out of Georgia, coming over to Dothan, gets a huge win, 63-27. They move to 3-0 on the season. Dothan 0-5, looking for a win on the column. Abbeville continuing their winning streak, making it 6-1 as they travel to now 2-5. Ayrton 32-22. A little bit closer than I anticipated that one to be, but Abbeville does get the win by 10. Greenville traveling to Rehoboth. Rehoboth with a big win there at home, beating Greenville 19-16. They'll move to 3-3 on the season. Greenville falls to 4-2. Providence falls to Opp, 34-12. Opp now 6-1 on the season. Providence 2-4. Opp looking really good this season. See if I can pull up a couple of your other games here around the league. And I'm not really getting the names up here. Zion Chapel does fall to GW Long, 56-0. Talked about that one. Geneva Elbow, we're good. Brantley gets a huge win over Sampson, 50-0. And that's what I've got out of your Alabama scores. I'll back this thing up and just see. I don't know why I backed it up, because I could have stayed right where I was here. Sorry. A couple of your Georgia scores that I do actually have pulled up here for us while this other thing, my other screen starts to pull up some of your scores. Westover pulled on a tight game to open up their season against Early County. Early County gets the win, 21-20, 1 point, squeaking it out there at the house. Early County will improve to 3-0 on the season, continuing undefeated. Westover falls to 0-1 as they start their season. SGA, huge win over Bethlehem Christian Academy, 66-29. They improved to 3-1 on the season. Bethlehem falls to 1-3. SGA still looking good this season. Cairo and the Pelham game, that one's been canceled. One of many games that's been canceled for Pelham. They do look to get the season back rolling next week. Jump back to our scores from this past weekend over in the Albany area. Lithania Springs falls to Lee County big, 62-6. Lee County moved to 3-1 on the season. Lithuania 0-4. Savannah Christian traveling to Deerfield, and they get a big win on the road, 48-7. Savannah Christian will improve to 4-1. Deerfield will fall to 2-3 on the season. Glen Academy traveling to the powerhouse Coffee. Coffee will keep it rolling as they win 45-7 there at the house. Moving to 3-1. Glen Academy evening it up, 2-2 on the season. Westminster traveling to Westwood. Westwood huge win, 45-6 there at the house. They'll improve to 3-0 to keep the undefeated season going. Westminster, falls to 0-3. Mitchell County taking on Brooks County, and Brooks County put it on them 63-34 to move to 4-0 on the season. Mitchell County unfortunately falling to 0-3. See if I can pull up a couple of other ones. I know that unfortunately Baconton, I think they played like Berrien County, maybe it was, or Berrien somebody. Maybe that was who it was. I may have that incorrect. Bad score out of that one. I think the final was like 80-7. Didn't look really good there for Baconton, so they do fall on the season. As far as that game goes, I do have a couple of your other scores around Georgia that should be popping up. Again, you got some scores that should be scrolling across the bottom as long as everything's going good there while this continues to load. Couple of good games coming up for you this coming weekend. Chris County 3-0 travels to Upson Lee, which I think is 2-1 or 3-1 on the season. Here we go. Crisp Academy taking on Montgomery Donovan. Montgomery gets the win 28-22. Tift area gets the win 24-21. Wilcox County will get the win over Telfair County 42-6. Terrell will beat the Knights of, I don't know who that is, 28-21. Let's see, I think that's Terrell County taking on Crawford. They get a huge win, 41-0. Maybe that's Tooley County gets the win over Berrien, 49-0. So that may have not have been Berrien that Baconton was playing. Irwin County gets the win over Tiff, 35-20. Turner County wins 34-21. Chris County and Jackson, I think that game was canceled. And those are the games that I have there. I'll double check just to see if I can get that other game pulled up here in the independent league. I think that's where I went last time when I got the Baconton game pulled up. But either way, it's fun to pull these up and see a couple of these other independent leagues just because, like I say, I follow Westwood pretty close there. Go back to the second here. Montgomery 3-0 taking on Windsor Academy this upcoming weekend, 5-0. Windsor looking to continue that undefeated streak. Brookwood gets the win over Briarwood, 34-9. Frederica gets the win over Brantley. I think that's it, 35-7. Robert Toombs gets the win over Piedmont. Piedmont gets the big win over Robert Toombs, 55-21. Job Millage, big win over Pinewood, 35-0. I think they continue the undefeated streak. Augusta Prep taking on Hancock Academy gets the win 20-13 by a touchdown there. Cross Keys beats Notre Dame 28-7. Sounds like a high school or college game there, doesn't it? Brentwood big win over Thomas Jefferson 41-0. Creekside gets the win over Wilkinson County 40-14. Westfield will beat Southland 21-14. Good game there. That's pretty much all of them that I got pulled up. And that's pretty much going to round us out this episode. It's been a wild episode. Hopefully you guys, if you guys have listened this far and stuck with us, I really appreciate it. That means you guys really do enjoy listening to it because it's been extremely difficult to listen to this. I can definitely guarantee you that. But again, I do hope that you guys, let me save that. Again, hope that you guys have been able to hang out and listen to us for a little while. Let me get all my stuff pulled back up here because it's the way it should go. Put this on here. You guys follow us on Facebook and Twitter at SEC Talk 20. As we say every time, shoot us a message over there, whatever you guys want to see, hear, listen to, anything like that. Meant to pop this up a minute ago. I'll throw it up there now. That was the Under the Lights segment of the weekend. Wrapping it up. Hopefully Cody will be back with us so we can get some of this stuff figured out to where we get you a little bit better, a little bit of a better show. I mean, that's kind of all there is to it because this one, let's just be honest, wasn't the greatest. But again, I appreciate you guys sticking around, and it's going to wrap us up. SEC Talk, Holden and Cody. Appreciate you guys listening. We out.